In video 1, we gained important background information about refugees' experiences. We also learned how and why different groups of immigrants make the decision to leave their countries of origin. In the particular case of refugees, what happens once they arrive in the United States? And how do they ultimately make their way to individual states, like our beautiful Colorado? Let's explore this in two main parts: pre-departure and resettlement. The process of resettlement is a complex one. Resettlement to the United States, in particular, is an intense, thorough, and often lengthy undertaking. Of all categories of immigrants to America, refugees are the most rigorously screened and vetted. We'll explore the pre-departure process now. Note that these policies and procedures do change from time to time, mostly to enhance the integrity and security of the U.S. resettlement program. Refugee admission to the United States begins with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR. The UNHCR determines refugee status through a series of interviews and an analysis of each person's documents and important biodata, including the first set of fingerprints. Again, the UNHCR refers fewer than 1% of all global refugees for third country resettlement. Refugees do not choose their country of resettlement. Candidates who are assigned to the United States Resettlement Program are referred to a Resettlement Service Center, or RSC. The RSC collects all documentation and creates a file. The next phase is a vigorous screening process that includes multiple federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and the State Department. If at any point an individual or family is determined to be a risk factor, the application is rejected. Those who continue on will undergo in-depth interviews and updated biodata collection with the Department of Homeland Security. Any inconsistencies result in the repetition of that step or a complete termination of the application. As the application moves closer to completion, each individual receives a full medical evaluation. At this point, candidates begin preparing for actual resettlement. They take part in cultural orientation programming to help prepare them for the transition. Non-government resettlement agencies in the United States work to determine the best location for resettlement. The candidate does not choose his or her destination state or city. Next, travel is organized. Additional security checks are conducted at this point. Once again, any flags terminate the process. Finally, the candidate arrives in the United States, where a whole new set of processes and chapters of learning begin. That was a lot. Let's review in brief. First, the UNHCR identifies candidates and collects essential information. Next, the Resettlement Service Center, or RSC, creates a file for the applicant. The first round of screenings and security checks take place. Then the candidate interviews with the Department of Homeland Security. Advanced biometrics, including fingerprints or iris scans, are taken. The candidate then undergoes a full medical evaluation. He or she takes place in cultural orientation programs and is assigned a final destination. Next, travel is planned and the candidate is subject to new security screenings. And finally, he or she arrives in the United States and is greeted by a representative from the partnering resettlement agency. Now, let's learn what happens in resettlement and integration. For many, resettlement does not signal an end, but rather a beginning. Those who are new to the United States may suddenly be confronted with a world that is full of newness. We may take for granted the many nuances that we consider normative to American life. For many new arrivals, however, U.S. processes and systems are unfamiliar. In addition, resettled refugees are expected to learn English and participate in school or the workforce. Meanwhile, they face the challenge of balancing life in a new country with maintaining their unique personal and cultural identities. Resettlement agencies, including those in Colorado, walk beside newly arrived refugees in achieving healthy resettlement outcomes and integration into our communities. Integration is a dynamic, two-way process in which immigrants and the receiving society work together to build secure, vibrant, and cohesive communities. Incoming individuals and families have vastly different needs, goals, and existing strengths. Colorado's refugee service provider network reflects this diversity. We'll begin with our core service providers. These organizations make critical preparations for resettled refugees and are there to meet them when they first arrive in Colorado. The U.S. Department of State partners with 9 separate nonprofit entities throughout the United States to coordinate initial refugee resettlement. 3 of those agencies are active here in Colorado: ECDC African Community Center, Lutheran Family Services, and International Rescue Committee. Resettled refugees do have certain requirements that they are expected to work toward in resettlement. In addition to following the laws of our country, they must attend English language courses. Adults must actively seek out employment, and children must attend school. Resettled refugees are also expected to repay the International Organization for Migration, or IOM, for a travel loan that covered the cost of their tickets to the US. Resettlement agencies, meanwhile, are also responsible for meeting numerous objectives in alignment with the initial 90-day resettlement program led by the State Department. These objectives include greeting the families at the airport, securing initial housing, enrolling children in school, and ensuring a first stateside health screening, among many other efforts. Nationally, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, or ORR, funds many of the programs and services needed for longer-term integration, such as job training, English as a second language, youth programming, and more. Refugees and other eligible populations may be able to access services for up to 5 years from the date of their initial eligibility. ORR's resources are directed through the Colorado Refugee Services Program, which is the state refugee agency housed in the Colorado Department of Human Services. The Colorado Refugee Services Program funds resettlement agencies and a variety of other organizations to meet the needs of our refugee communities. Because integration is multifaceted, each organization's programming may differ slightly so that it can be tailored to the unique population it serves. You can see in this video some of the many ways that resettlement organizations support new arrivals. But of course, it takes a village. Colorado communities rely upon an extensive interwoven network of refugee network service providers to ensure successful integration for new Americans. Services provided in the first weeks or months of resettlement are just the tip of the iceberg. Throughout our great state, groups of all shapes and sizes bolster healthy integration by providing new arrivals with a range of tools and opportunities to engage in the American experience. Together, these supports make up our village. Colorado has dozens of refugee network service providers. Each of these providers is made stronger by members of our community who volunteer with, donate to, and support these organizations. You are an important part of the village. Check out our Engage page to find out more about how to get involved. Thanks for learning with us. We hope you'll join us in the next video as we explore some of the reasons why we accept refugees to Colorado.